Hi, I'm Aaron, and today I'm going to be talking about July 4th, 1776 and the Declaration of Independence. But first off, I want to ask y'all, how many of y'all celebrate the 4th of July, do anything on the 4th of July? How many of y'all know any type of history about how we got to our independence in the 4th of July? Okay, more than I expected. All right, so the 4th of July is one of the biggest holidays that's celebrated in the U.S. It's only behind Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Halloween, and it's one of the most important dates in America's history. This is a little one of a quote: "Give me liberty or give me death." And then, so now I want to talk about some of the events that led up to the Declaration of Independence. So all these top ones are all the acts and all the things that Great Britain did to the colonists, and these are everything that followed all the things the colonists did to Great Britain. And so now I want to talk about some key events that kind of pushed everybody over the edge. So the Stamp Act, it was the first internal act that taxed all paper products in the colonies, so like tea bags, anything. The Townshend Act taxed all goods that were imported to the colonies, so no countries would want to import to them because it was too expensive, and nobody could get anybody to import because it was too expensive, they didn't have the money. And then the Tea Act of 1773, Great Britain was in debt, and the East India Company was helping them get out of that debt. And so Great Britain gave them permission to form a monopoly in the colonies and to sell tea for whatever price they wanted. And this is from the Stamp Act that they would put on there. And so these were some of the official acts the colonists considered infringements upon their rights. These acts led to the Stamp Act Congress and the First Continental Congress. The colonists were pushed to the edge, so they started to push back with their own congresses. And so these two congresses kind of helped they started thinking about how we can get independence from Great Britain. And so the beginning of the end. The years leading up to July 4th, 1776, the British kept on pushing the colonists. And the colonists, of course, became more and more discontent with the treatment they were receiving, and they wanted and they needed their freedom. And if they didn't get it, they would die for it. And so on April 19, 1775, the battles of Lexington and Concord took place. These two battles started the American Revolution. The American Revolution lasted for 7 years. The fight was between Great Britain and the 13 colonies. Great Britain had about 8 million residents in 1775, and the 13 rebellious colonies about 2.5 million, which were half were slaves. And Great Britain, when they were fighting the war, they also had Germany on their side, so they were getting more troops. And the colonies only had France on their side, and they weren't getting as many. But even though the colonists were outnumbered, they wouldn't go down without a fight. An estimated 6,800 Americans were killed in action, 6,100 were wounded, and upwards of 20,000 were taken prisoner. And so that goes back to they would die for their freedom. They will not go down without a fight. And so now I want to talk about the Declaration of Independence. And these are the boys, the founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, all of them. And this isn't a real Declaration of Independence, you know. All right, and so now to continue. During the American Revolution, members of the First Continental Congress formed the Second Continental Congress. And these were the people that really created the Declaration of Independence and were the ones pushing for freedom. And so on July 11th, 1776, members of the Second Continental Congress were instructed to create the Declaration of Independence. And finally, on July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was created and sent to Great Britain. And a lot of my history teachers back in high school, they would always refer to it as a breakup letter with Great Britain, because it was saying, we're ending relations with you, we're not going to have anything to do with you. And then the colonists fought for what they believed in. And they won. They got their freedom. A testimony from Lewis Morris, which was a signee of the Declaration of Independence, states that we must stand upright, speak thy thoughts, declare the truth thou hast, that all may share. Be bold, proclaim it everywhere. They only live who dare. And so this is just saying, stand up for what you believe in, don't go down without a fight, and always do what's right. And then why July 4th? Now I'm going to talk about how we celebrate and why it's still important today. And so in 2019, the need for freedom is still there, and it's going all around the world. And the major point of the Declaration of Independence was that the U.S. needed freedom. The Declaration of Independence is the most important of all American historical documents. It is essentially a partisan document, a justification of the American Revolution presented to the world. And so everybody was mad at America because they didn't believe that they needed to fight this big war, but they of course did, because that's how they got their freedom. And so today there are more people fighting for freedom, more than ever before. All around the world you'll see, like in Venezuela, they have a big revolution going on. In Russia they have whatever revolutions going on. But and so like it's important that we celebrate it, because our country is truly free from being oppressed and all that. And so now I want to talk about how Americans celebrate the 4th of July. Americans celebrate the 4th of July in many different ways, going to picnics, barbecues, or others travel and go see fireworks, or others just blow fireworks up. 61% of Americans this year will attend a barbecue or a picnic. America's #1 beer drinking holiday, 16,000 firework displays around the nation, $1 billion spent on fireworks. And there are many different ways to celebrate America's independence, but it's not important to celebrate just to celebrate. It's important to know why you're celebrating and the history of and the people that sacrificed. And so why this is important to my family, this holiday is, my grandparents came from Pakistan, and they were seeking freedom, and they found it here in America. And when we were younger, my grandpa would always drill into our head that our most important thing that we had was our freedom. And he told us that even though being a Pakistani American was going to be hard, being a Pakistani living in Pakistan was going to be even harder. And so every year we celebrate the 4th of July like madmen, eating as much food as we could and buying fireworks that we could. And so to conclude, I hope this presentation showed y'all maybe some new facts or ways of celebrating that you didn't know before. And hopefully now when y'all celebrating, you'll know why you're celebrating it and not just blowing stuff up. And then don't forget that if you go out and shoot fireworks off and you blow off fingers, that does not count as a sacrifice for America.